It is often what lies beneath the surface that tells the true story. The modern city of Jerusalem draws tens of thousands of tourists from around the world. A great number of them come to explore its ancient sites and to perhaps walk where Jesus walked 2,000 years ago. Beneath this renowned ancient city sleeps historic treasures that are being awakened by archaeologists at an increasing rate, shedding new light on the history of this city that affects the entire world politically and spiritually, setting it apart from all other cities of the world. Travel with Jimmy DeYoung and some of Israel's most important archaeologists into underground Jerusalem. It is often what lies beneath the surface that tells the true story.
The city of Jerusalem was originally built near a water source located on the southeastern hill to the south of the Temple Mount, called the Gihon Springs. As the city expanded over time, the original area on the slope was referred to, in honor of its founder, as the City of David. David, the shepherd boy who killed Goliath and grew to lead Israel, conquered the city of Jerusalem, taking it from the Jebusites, a Canaanite tribe who inhabited the area some 3,000 years ago. Welcome to the present-day City of David. This modest gate brings you into the entrance that looks similar to a theme park. It is filled with people in groups waiting and milling around for their turn to enter. But as soon as you descend your first flight of stairs, you quickly discover that this is going to be a very different experience. What waits below are some of the most exciting archaeological finds of the ancient world. Right off the courtyard entrance is the cistern, a straight-down descent of 24 feet into the 45 feet wide ancient water cistern used to collect water for the city of David during the rainy season to get the city through the dry season. As you make your way to another underground area, you pass along the stepped hillside where archaeologists have uncovered a home from the First Temple period. It's Solomon's Temple between 106 and 586 BC. Archaeologists discovered 51 royal seals inscribed in ancient Hebrew, including the seal of Gomera, the prophet Jeremiah's scribe, mentioned in the Bible in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 36, verse 10. Descend further underground on the slope of the city that was once above ground, and you come to the Gihon Spring, an ancient spring from which many people in the stories of biblical Jerusalem would drink. But it is more than just a water source. It is at this location that many significant events in Israel's history took place. The anointing of the kings of the house of David, and water-drawing festivals of the Jewish people. In the 8th century BC, when Assyria became a threat to Jerusalem, King Hezekiah sought to protect Jerusalem's water supply by diverting its flow deep under the city with a tunnel system, an amazing 1,750-foot tunnel that is still there. Today you can walk through Hezekiah's tunnel, but be prepared to get wet. The water will be up to your knees. The story of all of this underground activity in Israel begins with a British archaeologist named Captain Charles Warren. Warren was commissioned in 1867 to travel to Jerusalem and conduct the first major excavations that would usher in a new age of biblical archaeology. His most famous discovery was Warren's Shaft, a water shaft that allowed the people of Jerusalem to draw water from the Gihon Spring without leaving the safety of the city walls. It is believed that David and his men used this shaft to sneak in and conquer the city from the Jebusites. 2 Samuel 5, 8, and 9 says, "Now David said on that day, whoever climbs up by way of the water shaft and defeats the Jebusites, he shall be chief and captain. Then David dwelt in the stronghold and called it the City of David. Warren had a long and colorful career, including a stint as the head of the London Metropolitan Police from 1886 through 1888, which was during the time of the famous Jack the Ripper murders. Many visitors to Jerusalem volunteer at this research site, where guests get to be hands-on archaeologists as they sift through the dirt taken from the excavations and construction on and beneath the Temple Mount. This research center is headed by Dr. Gabi Bar-Kai, one of the most distinguished archaeologists in Israel, and a dear friend to me personally for many years. Gabi agreed to meet me today under the City of David.
This is the ancient core of Jerusalem, where from the whole story of Jerusalem starts. The place is occupied from approximately 6,000 years ago until this very day. Already in the 19th century, when the place was first discovered, mainly by a British pioneer archaeologist by the name of Sir Charles Warren, already then he published a book named Underground Jerusalem. Here we are again, underground Jerusalem. We are in the City of David in an excavation, which is a new dig. This dig started in 2005 under the directorship of my friend and colleague, Dr. Eilat Mazar of the Hebrew University. Her grandfather was my teacher.
Oh, really?
In any case, he was the pioneer of Israeli excavations in Jerusalem. The area itself was already searched and partially scrutinized by an Irish archaeologist who worked here in the 1920s. This was Robert Stewart Alexander McAllister, who worked here together with John Garrow Duncan. In any case, they found above bedrock piles of large stones, which they thought are part of bedrock. And they didn't bother to remove the stones, the fallen stones, something which was done by Eilat Mazar since 2005. And she found here a significant structure built of large, roughly hammered boulders. This wall here that you see in front of us is built on bedrock, and in some places it covers a floor which had in the matrix of the floor, embedded into the floor, some pottery of the 11th century BC. Thus, the building built over that floor has to be later. It is of the 10th century BC, from the time of David and Solomon. This discovery is very, very significant. We have on bedrock here remains from the Chalcolithic period, from the 4th millennium BC. 6,000 years ago. We have some Canaanite remains here. We have some Jebusite remains here. But this is very significant. It is the first time that we have a large public building dating back to the time of the united monarchy of the Israelites under David and Solomon. The excavator, Dr. Eilat Mazar, she thinks that the building could have been David's palace. Myself, I don't think so, but nevertheless, the building is a very important, significant public building, and I fully accept the dating which is suggested by the excavator.
Excuse me for interrupting, but how does the Bible actually play in to helping you make decisions archaeologically?
Now, that's a very complicated question, but I'll try to answer it as simply as possible. We try to excavate and to find whatever there is. And the biblical connections are part of the interpretation rather than of the discovery itself. But when you find something which I discovered many years ago, a verse written on a silver scroll saying, the Lord bless thee and keep thee, you cannot but connected to the biblical evidence because it is similar to what you have in the book of Numbers. And if you have here a ceiling with a name which is mentioned in the Bible, you cannot ignore the biblical connection. The biblical connection is obvious. The question is, what do you do with it?
Yes.
If you enforce the biblical interpretation upon the mute stones, they of course do not object.
I understand Gabby's concern for the authenticity of a site like this. Archaeologists strive to look into a discovery as open-minded as possible, looking for the evidence to validate itself. They understand that historic, political, and religious views will seek to capitalize on their efforts.
We have a paved street, which is in another part of the city of David, not here, in the southern part. It dates back to the Second Temple period, time of Jesus Christ. The finds here are of the 10th century BC, and over there the finds are of the 1st century of the Common Era. Let's go there.
Please, let's go. Lead the way.
Jimmy, we are here at the southern tip of the city of David. We are again underground, and here we are in a system of street levels, paved streets, beautifully paved, with the original slabs, with the slabs as found, and they are from the time of Jesus. This street goes up here towards the Temple Mount, and much of it still lies underground and it is not excavated. These stones are Herodian. They were put here in the 1st century, and you can see the steps. You have 2 steps and then a landing, 2 steps and then a landing. It goes up gradually, very conveniently, up towards the Temple Mount. I guess that if Jesus visited Jerusalem and he went up from the pool of Siloam, which is right behind us, the very one mentioned in the Gospel of John, he could use this street. Wherever you go in Jerusalem,
There's a story.
there is a story. Wherever you go in Jerusalem, there is yet another story in the lower level, down below. And even if you get to the down below level,
There's
there
still
is-
something.
There is still something underneath.
You told me when I called you about doing this program with us that you might take me to Zedekiah's cave. Is that possible? That's underground.
The Zedekiah's cave is one of the most fascinating places in Jerusalem. It is known also by the name of Solomon's Quarries. Let's go there.
Let's go.
Zedekiah's cave is entered through an unassuming door near the Damascus Gate. Beneath the Muslim quarter of the old city of Jerusalem are some 5 acres of man-made caves, serving as a quarry for thousands of years in the building and rebuilding of Jerusalem.
Now wait a minute. Discovered by a dog. I got to hear that story.
Reverend Barclay was on an afternoon, Sunday afternoon walk with his sons and with the family's dog. The dog disappeared into a hole in the ground. 2 of his sons went inside and told Daddy that they can't see the dog, but they found a very, very large cave. So the next Sunday they came back with ropes, with torches, with equipment, and of course they were arrested by the Turkish authorities for spying. In any case, it was actually the dog of Reverend Barclay who discovered this cave. The cave is mentioned in the writings of Flavius Josephus 2,000 years ago, and he calls it the Royal Caverns. He describes the place in connection with the line of one of the walls of Jerusalem. We are just underneath the present-day Turkish city wall of Jerusalem, and the cave penetrates deep underneath the Muslim quarter of the old city. It is a vast cave, very impressive, and you didn't see yet anything. Let's go and see more of it.
Okay. Oh, wow. Man. That is something. Gabby, this is amazing.
This vast cave, as you see it, is all of it artificial, man-made. It is an ancient quarry, most of it from Second Temple period. But there is some at the entrance which was hewn out of the rock already in First Temple period. The entire cave was used for quarrying large building stones for public buildings. Very impressive, large building stones, probably in the days of Herod the Great. So Herod's palace, Herod's temple, and various other structures of Jerusalem, like the Fortress Antonia, like the Royal Porch, and other buildings could have been built of stones quarried in this cave.
The name Zedekiah's Cave comes from the tradition that King Zedekiah, the last king of the house of David, fled the city through this underground passage during the Babylonian invasion in the 6th century BC.
Gabby, you have been such a gentleman. You're a scholar, of course, and for you to host me at the city of David and here in Solomon's Quarry, Zedekiah's Cave, has been just an honor for me to have the opportunity to have you take me along. Let me tag along with you to see these things.
The pleasure and honor is mine. Blessed be.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
God bless you too.
We're going to continue our journey underground Jerusalem. We're going to be going to the Western Wall tunnels. You need to come see that with us.
The Western Wall is part of the retaining wall for a platform where Herod's temple once stood on top of Mount Moriah more than 2,000 years ago. For centuries, the Jewish people have come to this wall to touch their heritage in the land of their fathers and to pray to the God who brought them here. People from all over the world come here to join the Jewish people in prayer and to leave a written prayer placed in the wall. Underground is the Western Wall Tunnel, explored by archaeologist Charles Warren in the late 1860s and opened to the public in 1996. The tunnel runs the entire length of the Western Wall. Down here, you can walk along the wall as people did in the 1st century.
And joining me is Mayor Ben Dov, a longtime friend, dating back to 1984, when Mayor gave me the tour of these tunnels. And in fact, Mayor, at that time, the tunnels were not like they are today with all the lights and everything.
They enlarged it and put lights.
It was just dirt floors, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
We're here in front of these massive stones. Now, we've just come from Solomon's Quarry, where we are talking about cutting the stones out to build buildings. And even, if you remember correctly now, Gabby Barkay told us that Herod the Great used some of those stones most likely. Tell us, Mayor, about these stones. They're unique in the fact that they were moved from one location here.
We are now close to the opposite the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, part of the Wailing of the Western Wall. And the stones are huge stones. You have here 3 stones at the weight of 850 tons each one.
850 tons.
The stone construction of the retaining walls of the Temple Mount is a wonder to behold, many of extraordinary weight, like the one Mayor described. Mayor explained that they moved these stones by getting some kind of a wheeled tool underneath them. It's pretty amazing to hear him describe the builders moving these stones by rolling them along the steep hills of Jerusalem. But even Mayor was vague on just how they stacked these largest construction stones in the ancient world. And this was dry construction, simply stones stacked on stones. In the time of Jesus Christ, these stones were recognized for their strength and achievement. In the book of Mark, chapter 13, it begins, "Then as he went out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, 'Teacher, see what manner of stones and what buildings are here.'" We made our way next to Warren's Gate, named for the British archaeologist who came here in the 1860s. After modern excavations by the Israeli archaeologist, it was found that this gate offered passage into the area underneath the Temple Mount. Due to the tensions between the Jewish people and the Muslims who oversee the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque above, the gate was blocked by a deep concrete wall to separate the two people and their interest in this underground property. There are many stories of what lies beneath the temple. Perhaps one day we will know. Further along the Western Wall tunnel is a place recognized as the point closest to where the Holy of Holies was located in the temple. You'll usually find someone here in prayer all hours of the day and night.
To help us in our journey through another archaeological site, my good friend Hillel Giva, who actually was responsible for the dig here, the archaeological dig at the Herodian Quarter, plus the entire upper city of Jerusalem in the Old City. Hillel, it's a joy to see you again, and I'm looking forward to the time we can spend together.
Thanks. Thank you.
You know, we're going to take 20 steps down, but we're actually going to go down 2,000 years in history. Come take the journey with us.
Let's go.
The Herodian Quarter excavation exposes 6 homes in the upper city of Jerusalem from the Herodian period. This would be the years from 37 BC until the destruction of the city by the Romans in 70 AD. These were wealthy, well-furnished homes, likely the homes of civic and religious leaders of that time. One of the homes had more than 50 rooms. It is an eye-opening look into the sophistication of the Roman and Jewish cultures, the leisure and the pleasure available in that time, and the strength of commercialism, and, let's face it, taxation, behind all of this in the world 2 millennia ago. Hillel Giva was the managing archaeologist in the excavation, which took place here between 1969 and 1983.
Let me show you authentic remains from the destruction of Jerusalem in the year 70 AD. We have many, but we couldn't preserve everything. But here there is a good example of the destruction of Jerusalem, charted wooden beam, part of the frame of the ceiling that was burned and collapsed on the ground, burning everything. You can see the damage. Even here in the mosaic floor, see what happened to the mosaic floor. You cannot clean it. It's absorbed into the stones. Some of the stones just disappeared because of the high temperature of the fire that destroyed the house.
In 70 AD, the future Emperor Titus led 4 Roman legions in the capture and destruction of the city, which included the temple, the heart of the Jewish faith. Remember the comment of one of Jesus' disciples on the wonder and power of the stones and the buildings of the temple? Jesus' reply was not what the disciples expected when he said, "Do you see these great buildings? Not one stone shall be left upon another that shall not be thrown down." And Jesus was correct. Nearly 40 years after his crucifixion, not one building was left. Once underground, but now above ground at the southern end of the Western Wall, you can see and touch stones where they fell in 70 AD, stones from the upper walls of the Temple Mount retaining wall. You can even see the impact of the stones on the street below. What city on earth is like Jerusalem, one of the oldest cities in the world, torn down and rebuilt time and time again? A city meant by God and man to be a city of peace, yet always surrounded by conflict. A city conquered by the Romans, by the Crusaders, by the Ottoman Empire, ruled by the British, divided by the world, and yet in our day, continuing as the capital of the state of Israel, yet still surrounded by conflict and threat. This is the city to which God sent his only Son to suffer and die, that peace may come to all. I know in my heart that I'm a lot like this city. I build great retaining walls and powerful buildings in my life to give strength, security, and peace. But like the buildings of this city, I get torn down. I lose someone or something I love. I lose security, peace, strength. The trials of life show me what I have built my life on, what my life is made of. The cornerstone is the most important stone of any structure. It is also referred to as the foundation stone. All other stones are set in reference to this stone. The cornerstone sets the course for the entire structure. In my journey through underground Jerusalem, I believe that I have discovered that perhaps the most important stone of all for the city of Jerusalem was never put in place. Every builder of this city had a better idea of what the cornerstone should be, but the buildings they produced all came down along with their strength and their dreams. Generation after generation keeps trying to build Jerusalem without the stone that God sought to place for them. And it is the same foundation stone that I needed to place in my life.